There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
So you want to get serious about motorcycle audio. Well, I'm going to say you're going to be pretty hard-pressed to not run across this brand if you're serious about motorcycle audio. Of course, I'm talking about Saddletramp, owned by none other than Metra. Today, we're treated because we are going live to the studio at Metra headquarters with their VP of Research and Development, Jason Anderson, to tell us all about the great stuff that Saddletramp has in line for you this season. This is CMA Showcase, presented by SiriusXM, Saddletramp. And it starts now. As you know, this is a showcase. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Thanks for tuning in. And that means we've got some new product to show you guys. Pretty exciting stuff in the motorcycle audio category. Saddletramp has been around quite some time. They've got stuff in pretty much every category that you need to install or do anything custom to a motorcycle, whether it be adapters, T-harnesses, any type of installation accessory, lids, you name it. They've pretty much got a solution. But today, they're going to uncover something even deeper, even more advanced. And I think it's going to be something that'll take your install to the next level. But before we do that, let's go ahead and bring in one of their distributors in Canada. Of course, we're talking about Importel. And if we're going to talk to Importel, we're going to bring in their 12-volt specialist, Ramesh Kulasagaram. What's going on, Ramesh?
Hey, Ben. How you doing?
I'm pretty excited. We're talking motorcycle audio. And like I said, hard-pressed to talk about motorcycle audio without including Saddletramp at some level.
Absolutely. I mean, integration is huge, and the team over at Metra in the Saddletramp division, that's what they're about. So
absolutely, and when you say Metra, you're going to have some expectations. They've got a rich history in this industry. Integrating, I think was the key word that you said right there. And nobody, and I mean nobody, who works in 12-volt professionally, doesn't know who Metra is. But I wanted to kind of set the precedence here. Why do you feel, Ramesh, that Saddletramp is such an important line of product when it comes to this, motorcycle category?
Well, Ben, I think you touched on it. We talk about history, and we talk about, wheelhouse or what companies are good at. Metra has a history, with Importel even way back, 30 plus years. And the motorcycle category being as vibrant as it is, both for consumers and dealers, the Saddletramp brand is huge for that. Integrating is what they're really good at Metra, and so Saddletramp is just an extension of that, right? It's a way to get into bikes, and we'll cover today some really interesting. I'll use the term workaround, but really they're solutions to allow us to treat newer bikes like 14 and up, and that's I think what we're going to center on, like we would have with older bikes that people are maybe more familiar with and dealers are more familiar with, and a lot of the plans or tactics that we used to use in the past don't apply as well, and consumers might end up with a finished product that isn't what they had in their previous bike or the previous rendition of solution. So Saddletramp is huge on that.
And I mean, Importer, you guys got quite the plethora of offering when it comes to the motorcycle audio customer, right? Whether it's the ARC audio, I say ARC because that's kind of like a big deal in motorcycle for sure, but you also got the Expert Euphoria stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So having Saddletramp in your wheelhouse just rounds out that entire offering for the customer.
Correct. It allows us, like we're talking about solutions. So, how do we get these huge, massive, like 6x9, motorcycle drivers are weaving out a 6x9 subwoofer with a horn in it. Hey, I want to put 2 of those in. I want to put 4 of those in. I want to, in the bags, or I want to upgrade the tour pack, or we want to do lowers in the front fairing. Like, how do we do these things? Like, right? So consumers are coming in asking for solutions, even if the dealer isn't a, let's say, motorcycle centric shop. Like, there's some shops that have pretty much changed their business model to cater to motorcycles and or power sports boats, and sort of looking less at vehicles sometimes. And Saddletramp is how we're going to get there. That's the door. Awesome. That's the portal into offering those solutions where everything's going to fit and the finish is proper, and we're going to be able to deliver a repeatable result to a consumer without having to go back and revisit the solution.
So we've got Jason Anderson, the guy we want to talk about Saddletramp, obviously, from the studio. He's got quite the setup to go through today. What are you most excited about to learn today, Ramesh?
DSP, Digital Sound Processor.
For bikes, of all things.
For bikes, specifically for bikes. I mean, we talk about it in cars all the time, but we were talking about solutions that aren't available or there aren't ways to get there. This DSP solution with T-harness is almost obligatory for
obligatory. I'm going to circle back with you on that one. Hey,
I can't spell the word, but it sounds really important.
We've got a video to set the mood, and while we get Jason's queued up in the studio, let's roll the tape. This is all about Saddletramp from Metra.
Let's do it.
So as we mentioned earlier, we are lucky today because joining us straight from their Florida headquarters is none other than the Vice President of Research and Development, which is the guy who gets to play with things and come up with ideas and make it happen, Mr. Jason Anderson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben. How you doing, Ramesh?
Very good. How are you?
Good. Excited about today.
To
Awesome.
meet with us today.
So,
Yeah, of
Jay,
course.
you heard our little preamble. Pretty excited about today. We're talking about some new product, but we're also here to, get connected with dealers who might not be totally aware of the full offering, that Saddletramp has to offer. We saw in that video, highlighting the lighting options. I mean, there's just so many categories. Unfortunately, we know that we don't have enough time to do all of it. We're going to focus on some of the newer product, but there is a lot of product. It's coming from a big brand like Metra. So how does a subdivision like Saddletramp stay connected with that motorcycle community, which is so important?
Well, I think it's got a lot to do with our, the history of Metra, right? Metra's always been a company that's focused on accessories, helping dealers get product installed into their vehicles. So, and growth over the last 75 years, right? Metra has grown exponentially, and we always look for different areas to branch out into, different types of markets, and motorcycle is just one of those markets. And it just seemed like a good fit when we sat back and we took a look at, what the industry needs, maybe what it was missing, and what Metra can do to supply those installation accessories to our dealers that want to start installing some audio on motorcycles. So, Metra has always been accessory focused, and I'd have to say that with the Saddletramp line as a whole, whether you have experience in the motorcycle market or you're just getting your feet wet in the motorcycle market, the way that the line is oriented and the directions within the line, it really opens up customers that are experienced and maybe not so experienced with motorcycles to allow them to install the equipment that their customer is looking for, their amps, their speakers, whatever the shop sells. Those are the accessories that we have in the Saddletramp line that's going to help them do that.
It probably doesn't hurt where you're located in Florida, being riders like crazy, like all year round, right?
We have Bike Week, we have Biketoberfest, and then obviously any day of the week down here, you're going to see hundreds of motorcycles on the road. So, it's definitely it's research and development as far as like focusing on a motorcycle, real easy to get to. So.
That's perfect that you bring that up. It's in your title. You just touched on it, research and development. So talk to us a little bit about how the product development process works for Saddletramp.
Yeah. So, the great thing is about Harley-Davidson is they did a couple year breaks. So you have 98 to 2013 motorcycles that are all very similar in, kind of like the guts of the motorcycle, the wiring and the connectors and all that other stuff. And as we get to that year break of 2013, we go on to 2014. They really held the same type of ideals, right? So a lot of the connectors are the same. The wiring harnesses are the same. They're very similar. There's only minor, subtle differences that, quite honestly, don't even affect the audio in most cases. When we go out and we look to develop a product for a specific type of vehicle, if we don't have that vehicle available, we go out and we buy that vehicle. So right here next to me, I've got a 2016 Harley-Davidson Ultra Limited motorcycle. This is a fully loaded motorcycle. It's got a lot of the bells and whistles, and it just made the development that much easier because we could start at the top and we can work our way backwards to some of the motorcycles that may not have some of those, all of those features that this particular motorcycle has. So, and then as we get, every year, Harley-Davidson's come out with new models, right? Just like vehicle manufacturers. So in those situations, again, because we're in Daytona Beach, big motorcycle community, we can go right up the road to our Harley-Davidson dealership and we can rent a brand new motorcycle for testing. So it kind of makes it easy. And that's really why it was very easy for us to make this transition from, Metra vehicle focus to Saddletramp motorcycle focus.
Yeah, totally makes sense. The dots weren't that hard to connect, for sure.
No, not at all.
Before we get into the presentation, I want to get a tidbit of personal insight from you, being the guy in charge of all this development of new product. Of all the things you've come up with Saddletramp since its inception, what would you say at this point is the accomplishment or the innovation or the part that you are most proud of so far?
Well, that's like trying to pick, who your favorite kid is, right? It's, I would have to say, if I had to think about it, you're gonna put me on the spot. I would probably say the accessory harnesses that we have in the line, because really it's a plug and play solution. And that's kind of where I was talking about a little bit earlier with, shops that may have experience with motorcycle audio versus shops that don't have experience with motorcycle audio. And honestly, if you don't have experience, it could be a little intimidating, right? So what we've done within the line is made everything as plug and play and as universal as possible. We don't care what amplifiers and speakers you're going to be putting in the motorcycle. We just want to give you the accessories and the wire harnesses to make that job easy. So
I want to add one comment here,
favorite.
And I think you'll appreciate this, Jason, and Ramesh, you as well. I've heard the term plug and play used by many different type of manufacturers. I'm going to go on the record and say it instills a higher level of confidence when I hear it coming from Metra. How's that?
And we appreciate that.
That's a fair comment. And I think dealers know that as well. So
yeah, I think so too.
Listen,
quite honestly, there's actually more focus in that plug and play terminology that we're using within the motorcycle and Saddletramp line than some of our other lines. So you can kind of see the progression, little hint there, progressional direction of where we're going.
I like that. Noted, Mr. Anderson. Noted. Let's dive into it, man. I want to give you the platform here. I see you have a whole setup. I think we're in for a treat here. You're going to show us some stuff on that bike as well and how to work certain things out.
Absolutely. So today, what I've got laid in front of me is our new Saddletramp DSP. And there are a lot of DSPs on the market, but there's not a lot of DSPs that can take a 2014 and up non-amplified factory radio and reflash that factory curve to give yourself a flat response.
Right.
And that's one of the products that we're extremely proud of. This stuff is shipping. Again, it comes with harnessing that makes those that plug and play terminology we were talking about. The installation is that much easier, and it's all set up through the Access app, which is Bluetooth controlled. So we're going to take you through the reflash procedure. We've got an RTA set up here on the table, so you can see the curve before and the curve after. And the RTA is not necessarily something you have to have in the shop. We just want to make sure that there's a visual representation of actually what's happening going on in the background. So we're excited to show it to you.
We are pumped up. Ramesh, any other notes before we let Jason have the stage?
No, I just got an RTA there. Let's
get into it. All right, Jay, it's all yours, buddy.
All right, great. So as we were saying, the DSP is a big focus of the Saddletramp line this year, and the primary focus of our big push is the DSP's ability to reflash the radio. So and this is important because as we look at an OE response curve for non-amplified motorcycles, there's a big drop off when we get below 80 hertz. So you have this big gap of audio where there's no low end frequencies from 20 hertz all the way up to 80 hertz. So by adding in a bunch of equipment to a motorcycle and expecting to have that just miraculously come to life and be and fill in that gap, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen easily. So what we've done with our access department is reverse engineered the factory reflashing code that Harley-Davidson uses to reflash the factory radios when they add in aftermarket Harley-Davidson amplifiers. So it took a lot of work, it took a lot of development time, but man, we nailed it. So so obviously within the box, you get your DSP, which I've got it set up over here on the motorcycle. but you also get our DSP T harness, which is BC 9715 T harness. And what this T harness does is, this is kind of the stuff that we're talking about, Ben was talking about with plug and play. This is just a T harness. This is the OE radio connector, and this is the mate for this connector here. We've cut the inputs and outputs from the factory radio, and we built a harness to make your installation just that much easier. We've got, this is a plug with an overmolded watertight grommet that plugs into the DSP case. We've got the other side, the output side of that DSP harness. Again, overmolded, water protection. Motorcycles, they get wet all the time. We got to have some type of protection. But it has all of your outputs here. And what I feel is unique about this particular setup is we left all of the connectors pinned. These are just Molex terminals. And the reason why we did that is because there's a lot of amplifiers that are out on the market. Some amplifiers have Molex inputs. This is a Molex connector. Everybody's probably familiar with the Molex connector. But these Molex connectors are found on aftermarket amplifiers. And in some cases, most cases, there could also be an RCA input. So what we did in the development of this harness is we try to make it as universal as possible. So we give the customer the option to either use an RCA, plug the RCA into their aftermarket amplifier, or use the Molex and plug the Molex connector directly into the amplifier, but you can pin it accordingly. You can make it match your aftermarket amplifier by simply pinning the connectors accordingly. And now we have that flexibility to the installer, and it just makes it just that much more universal. So on the other side of that, we have the amplifier, the speaker wires from the vehicle. So what we're doing is we're actually looping the factory wiring from the rear speakers that already exist in the motorcycle, and we're giving you the option to either one, add in a Molex terminal or Molex connector because you have Molex outputs on your amplifier, or if you have just regular speaker terminals, then you can just cut these terminals off, throw it into the output side of your amplifier, and you're ready to go. You don't have to do any wiring from the head unit back to the vehicle, back through the vehicle, excuse me. So, again, we're managing the input side to the DSP. We're giving you RCA or Molex outputs of the DSP once we're reflashing that curve. And then we give you the speaker wires that are coming out of this harness as well. So, we also, just in case you didn't catch all that, we got a nice diagram that explains all that as well, plus a full instruction manual that comes with the DSP. So I don't expect you to remember everything that we're talking about today, but just know that you have the Metra instructions to back you up. So, because, it's kind of like, Martha Stewart here, right? We've got one harness over here, and then I've actually already got one plugged into the motorcycle. So I'm going to bring you around to the front of this bike, and you'll see that we have, this is our Saddletramp water resistant case. We've got the T harness already plugged into the motorcycle, plugged into the OE wiring harness. And this is the input side into the DSP, and this is the output side of DSP. We have already our Molex connector to our RCA plug. That RCA is leading towards the input of the RTA so that we can show you the response curve of the factory radio before it's flashed and the response curve of the factory radio after it's flashed. And that's pretty much the most important part. Now, there are a lot of other tools. There are some other tools that are out in the market that can give you that reflash option. And they're great tools to have. Unfortunately, if you're not familiar with the motorcycle world, maybe you don't do a lot of bikes, maybe buying that reflash tool isn't an option for you. So that's why we included that reflash feature within our DSP, because it's a one-time buy. You put the DSP on the motorcycle. The DSP actually VIN locks to the motorcycle, and that's added protection both for the consumer as well as for the shop. So it's and it doesn't require any kind of yearly subscription, right? So some of those other reflashing tools that are on the market do require a yearly subscription. Our app, which is the Access app, which is how we set up that curve, it's free on the App Store. I will say that through the App Store, you need to have an Android device. Apple devices are not covered currently, but as always, they're a little bit tougher to deal with. But it's something that we're actively working on, and then we'll be doing a press release once we launch that Apple app. So, so with this DSP, we've got it. I'm going to lay it out right here. I'm going to bring you back up to the table so that I can show you exactly what that factory response curve looks like. Okay, so we're going to turn the ignition on our motorcycle. Okay, it's going to go through our boot up. And if we can get a close-up shot of the radio. So the 14 and up, like I said, this is a 16 ultra limited. So the boot up does take a little bit longer. But what I've got playing on the factory radio is pink noise. And pink noise is a tool that is used when you want to watch or look at a frequency response curve. So I'm going to come over here to our RTA and boot this thing up. Now, even though there's audio playing, there's pink noise playing, we don't have any audio playing right now because we have the inputs and the outputs separated. So you won't hear any audio during this presentation. The focus is going to be strictly on the RTA. So you can see as I raise and lower the volume, the level on the RTA changes. And you'll see this big hole right here. This is from 80 hertz and down. Without a reflash, we are not going to be able to fix that hole. So that response curve, this is the factory response curve of the motorcycle. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. So now we're going to go into the app. So this is the AX DSP XL app. Okay, if we can see that, I'm going to center it here on the screen. We're going to go into Bluetooth connection, and we're going to scan for our device. Found the DSP. Now this is going to take you to a configuration screen. And what's happening here in the background is the app is connecting, the tablet is connecting to the Saddletramp DSP. And we have a bunch of features that are here down the left-hand side of the screen. I will, before we do anything, I'm going to go in and check my crossover slope, make sure it's full range. So we're going to go here into the vehicle type. Now, under the vehicle type, if you're familiar with an AX DSP, this is where you have all of your year, make, and model selections. Well, the Saddletramp, because of its reflash feature, is a board solely dedicated to motorcycle, to Harley-Davidson. So we're going to leave it on Harley-Davidson. It's the only one that we have, to really offer. So as we select the the drop down for the model, this is where we're going to determine what we would like to do. So we have a reflash flat curve of 2014 to 2020, a reflash flat curve for the GTS radios. That's right. Not only do we cover the 11 and 4-button radios typically found on Harleys, but we're also covering the brand new touchscreen GTS radio. So we're going to hit flash flat. And I'd like to show you, bring you back into, let's see if I can show both here. Actually, I'll bring it over to the motorcycle. So we have our app, and I'm going to hit apply. When I hit apply, the radio is going to cycle ignition. You'll notice here that the audio dropped out. And what's happening right now in the background is the DSP is reflashing the factory radio. You'll see it automatically reset and restarted. Now, when we go into our DSP, we can see that we now have a flat frequency response curve. And that's the primary goal of the DSP, is to, primary function of the DSP, especially when relating it to Saddletramp, is giving customers the reflash capability, but then also giving them the flexibility of a fully controllable DSP. So you can adjust all the crossover slopes. You can adjust, on this particular one, this is a DSP X. So you have 31 bands of equalization across all channels, all 10 channels. And then a new feature that we launched at SEMA 2021 was a 5-band parametric EQ across all bands. So really, the DSP shows incredible flexibility. But I would say, from my point of view, from my perspective, is the reflash steps, or the reflash option for these motorcycles, is the most important part. So we obviously have the flat curve here. I'm going to cycle the ignition. So we're just going to turn it off. Wait a couple seconds. The headlights on the motorcycle are going to flash. That's just letting us know that it's asleep. We'll turn it back on. We will go back in. We're still connected to our DSP. You see our connection up here. We're going to go into configuration, vehicle type, and we're going to return it to the OE curve. So we'll return it to the OE curve, and I'm going to hit apply right now. You'll see the audio drop out. Again, the ignition, the radio will reset because of the boot up times of some of the Harleys. This particular radio, it could take anywhere between 15 to 45 seconds. So if it does not reset, give it some time. The audio will come back. And then you'll see our original curve. So the audio is playing right now, and I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to use this slider, and I'm going to adjust the crossovers. So you can see how I have full control over those crossovers. And you can see right now we're crossed over at 3,300 hertz. And I can bring it all the way back down to 20 hertz. Just 20 hertz, and that's our original curve. So again, I'm just going to take you one more time through this ignition cycle. Let the bike go to sleep. Audio is gone. Turn it on. Configuration, vehicle type, flash, flat curve, 2014 to 2020. We're going to hit apply. Audio is going to drop out. And when it returns, it will be a flat response. There we have it. So one thing I will show you real quick is the EQ type. We have graphic. So if we go into the EQ adjustments here, we can, as we go on, we're on left front. So I'm going to do some nasty curves here. Okay. You can see how that is affected. We can control the overall level of the output of the DSP. And then if we need to, we can return everything to flat. So it's really a flexible DSP. What I do want to show you here is parametric option. So you see if we go back into the adjustments for the equalizer, then we can adjust our gain, our frequency, as well as our Q. And as I adjust this, I'll adjust this on the screen. You can see as I create holes, those holes move up and down. So that's my parametric EQ, and that's the curve as it reflects on the RTA. So we're excited about this reflashing option. Now, I do want to point out a few things about the reflash. It's only required for Harley-Davidsons that are 2014 and up that are non-amplified from non-amplified motorcycles. It is possible that Harley-Davidson sold a customer a non-amplified motorcycle, but then the customer wanted to do an upgrade. And from the Harley dealership, they can reflash the radio and add in factory aftermarket equipment. So Harley-Davidson amplifiers. So they can do an upgrade at the dealership themselves. So whether or not the motorcycle originally was non-amplified, or if an amplifier was added in the future, this DSP is only going to reflash. It's only going to be needed to reflash on non-amplified motorcycles. If it's amplified, it's already a flat curve. The dealership took care of that for you. In that situation, you would just use the DSP for that control, the 31 bands of equalization across all channels, crossover adjustments, basically getting the sound that the customer is looking for, helping you get the sound the customer is looking for. So as I mentioned earlier, this particular DSP VIN locks to a motorcycle. That means it's married to it. If a customer, decides to pick up one of the DSPs, you install everything, and a year down the road, they want to buy a new motorcycle. You can take that DSP from the old motorcycle and put it into the new motorcycle. What you must remember in order to do that is you have to flash the motorcycle back to its original curve. So you have to flash it back to that OE curve before you can take it out and move it to another motorcycle. All of that information is addressed within the instructions. So it's a great tool. It's a way for dealers to get into an avenue of an area of business that they may not be tapped into right now. And then they can offer this level of service to their customers. And when these bikes come in, you know that they're going to leave with the best sounding audio system that we can get. Through the Saddletramp line, as I was talking about earlier, we have a whole line of installation accessories. This particular accessory is an amp installation kit. This gets amplifier power from the battery up into the fairing. We've got some quick disconnects that will allow you to install up to 2 amplifiers. There's a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of motorcycles on the market that are amplified. Okay. Well, you might say, well, what do I do if they're amplified? Right? Well, we have amp bypass plugs for you as well. These amp bypass plugs from Harley-Davidson, there's 4 different amplifier options. There's a 1 amp, 2 amp, 3 amp, and a 4 amp option. So in our BC 9726, we include 4 bypass plugs. And we've got labels on them that say rear amp bypass, right amp bypass, and another rear amp bypass. So basically what these do is when you unplug the factory amplifier, you throw it away, throw it over your shoulder. You plug this in, and all it does is it loops the inputs and the outputs of the amplifier. And once you have all of these plugged in, guess where the audio ends up? It ends up right back up front at the radio to where you can install your BC 9715 harness, and you don't have to run a single wire in the motorcycle at all. You can use the existing speaker wires that are on the motorcycle. So just because we include 4 plugs doesn't mean you have to use all 4 plugs. You just use the number of plugs for the number of amplifiers you have. So another great accessory, and it really limits the requirement to run those additional speakers. So I've got one more that I wanted to show you, and we can go back to the guys in studio here. And this one is our BC 9723. And you might say, well, what is this? You know, what is this going to do for me? Well, saddlebag harnesses, saddlebag speakers are a huge thing. Everybody wants saddlebag speakers. Well, getting audio into the saddlebag speakers can be a problem. One, because the saddlebags can need to be removed. People like to wash their bikes, remove the saddlebags, clean the inside and outside, polish the chrome, all that other stuff. So we made a BC 9723 harness. Now, this 4-pin connector is a connector that is found from the factory underneath Harley-Davidson seats. We have all of the bypass connectors and the Y connectors to split off that signal in our line. But what I do want to show you with this is, number one, it plugs into the OE connector. And number two, we've got some quick disconnects on here. So these quick disconnects lead directly to the saddlebags. Everything's marked and labeled. So this is the belt side of the motorcycle. This is the brake side of the motorcycle. We have the mate to the quick disconnect plugs. And then we have grommets that are included on the wiring, so you can get it into the saddlebag and then connect directly up to your aftermarket speakers. So I've got one here. And you can see this is our audio harness. I don't have a speaker in this bag lid yet. And then this just happens to be some RGB lighting that we added on. But you see the grommet goes directly into the bag, and it offers that watertight seal. And I would probably say that this is one of our more popular harnesses because a lot of people do want to have that upgrade. So, I would say within the Saddletramp line, I definitely encourage everybody to take a look at our website. It's the metrapowersports.com website. And you can break it up. You can view all of our 2014 and up harnesses. We've got so many harnesses in that line, and all those harnesses do is make your job easier as an installer, as a dealer, and feel confident that when you order and plug in this product, it's going to work. Metra knows how to do wiring. Metra knows how to handle interfacing, and Metra knows how to build plastics. Well, that's exactly what these motorcycles require, and that's what we're good at. So, if this can go, we can go back in studio to Ben and Ramesh. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you guys have, because those questions are probably going to be questions that your dealers have.
First of all, you had me at hello. Just want to say that. That was a really, really informative how-to kind of workshop, because seeing how simple that was to do. Now, you mentioned, I got a ton of questions. I'm sorry, I'm not giving you a chance to read.
Yeah, of course. That's what
I wrote down like a page of notes here, man. So like, all right. you mentioned that you don't have to have that RTA, but correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, that RTA really gives you that visual of what
It does.
the DSP is doing. I mean, the DSP will tell you what it's doing, but seeing those frequencies go from being completely absent to filling out that flat curve. I mean, it's that visual identifier. I think it's going to help a lot of installers out and also customers out when they see that and why they're paying for it. I mean, that's part of the thing. Ramesh, did you think the same thing? Like you kind of need it to complete that experience.
The visual reinforcement is huge. This video now will be available to the masses. Encourage dealers to use it when you're talking to consumers, because you can actually visually show them how it works, because we were talking about this backstage. Often in the industry, and I believe it's the same at retail, we make a lot of assumptions of as to what the terminologies that we use and what people will understand technically, and we don't ever kind of make it, dumb it down, I guess, or make it really simple. We want to throw around multi-syllabic words. And one of these things is, when we're talking about RTA and frequency response curve, and I made a note. When Jason said curve, it was more like a cliff.
Yeah, it's a total cliff. It goes there and it just drops straight 90%.
Yeah, it's
90
just like
degree
lemmings,
down. Like no base, zero.
Right.
At all.
So that visual, like using that video and going, hey man, you don't need to show them the whole video. You just go to that spot.
Go to that
part,
part.
In your head, it's 9 minutes and 27 seconds or whatever it is, right? And having that noted, because I do it all the time in emails to dealers. I will literally go, hey, 9 minutes and whatever, go watch this. This is what it does. You can't argue with it. It's not open for debate. It's not optional. This is what it does, and this is what you can't do. Doing the bike any traditional way, and retaining that radio. And that radio, the GTS, Jason, for those that are not bike savvy, either owners or consumers that might be looking to change their bike, that radio has a whole bunch of hidden integration features where removing it makes you lose factory Harley features. Is that correct?
It does. There's some oil information that's in on those screens. Obviously Harley-Davidson, because it's it's a bike designed for the outdoors, right? These radios are really resistant to weather. So in our experience, at least in our feedback, not everybody wanted to change that radio out because there's not really a good solution for water resistant product, right?
Right.
So having not only an option to retain that factory radio, but of course, like I said earlier, Metra, right? We do have an aftermarket solution to allow you to add in an aftermarket radio. So it's basically covering both sides of a coin, right? So it's, what does a customer want to do? They want to keep everything factory, radio, that factory look. We've got you covered. They want to do some audio upgrades, or you want to go full aftermarket. We've also got you covered as well. So, one thing I will say about the curves, right? So, I was a director of the Installer Institute for 11 years, right? So I taught and trained a lot of different people. And if there's one thing that teaching a lot of different people teaches me, is that, not everybody, I think you said it, Ramesh, not everybody knows exactly what they're looking at it, why they're looking at it, or what that means to them, right? So having a visual representation for them to see is incredibly important. And we took some of that, that idea, and we made graphics and we put them onto our website under those part numbers as well. So if there are, dealers out there that say, hey, look, I want to put this on display, we've got graphics that they can go grab from our website, download them, and paste them all over the shop if they want to. So
I had a question. What were people doing before this Access DSP came out? I'm just curious. Like, how could you even provide a full system upgrade if you can't even get a full signal?
So when in 2014, 2015, when this, when they started to identify this as a hurdle, you could take your motorcycle to Harley-Davidson and have them reflash the bike. They would do it for like $65. And then I think Harley-Davidson ended up catching on, and at least most of the Harley dealerships. Now I've heard, dealerships here and there still being able to offer that service to consumers, but for the majority of them, they stopped. And there's other companies that are out there, and even other motorcycle companies, like aftermarket motorcycle companies, that had solutions out there. But we had 2 years of a lot of uncertainty and chip shortages and stuff like that.
For sure.
And some of those products may not be readily available anymore. So with our DSP, because it's the Access product, because we got the support and the backing of Metra, we were able to secure enough chips to get us through the pandemic. So we were able to take our existing product, expand it, make it vehicle specific, or brand specific, I guess would be a better term, and offer a reflashing feature. So, and as I mentioned, there's other companies out there that have, it's a big, it's a tool, right? All shops need to have tools, but not all shops may have the ability to get those tools. So, when those are not available to somebody, the DSP it's kind of a one and done solution. You buy it once, you flash
I wanted to totally highlight that. So to wrap this up, as far as the DSP is concerned, here's the notes that I have, and tell me if I nailed this or if I'm totally off. But this is like an all-in-one must-have kind of tool solution. Okay, you're integrating T-harness style, original factory Molexes. There's no splicing, cutting, taping. It just click, 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 click. So plug and play.
That's right.
B, if you have the bike that is non-amplified and 14 and up, and you need to reflash it, it does that. Fantastic feature without extra tools, right? I mean, yes, it's nice to have the RTA as we just identified, but it will get the job done without the graphic. As with the process that you showed us today. It also provides you a huge equalizer to be able to customize the sound depending on the gear that you're going to be putting on, the crossovers to go with that. And now the new version, if that's maybe a feature only on the new version, if I'm not mistaken, or the new parametric EQs to get even a deeper control of what the output that you want.
So with the parametric versus the graphic, it is one or the other. Okay?
Oh, it's one or the other. Okay.
It's one or the other. And what we did when we launched that parametric EQ option is we just did it across the board on all of DXP, all the Access DSP product, which included the Saddletramp product. So,
which makes sense.
I mentioned yearly subscriptions and updates and stuff like that. You're not going to get that from Access and from these Saddletramp DSPs. As we come out with updates, we're going to push that update. It's free, and it's going to flow directly into the DSP on the motorcycle.
So whether it's the RGB controller app or the DSP controller, it's always going to be free coming from Metra, and the updates of that's amazing.
Again, we're an accessory business, right? So we're there to support the installer.
On that note, just to segue to my last and final point before I let you go, because you've been awesome today, Jay. Finishing off with all those accessories, adapters, especially the lid speaker. I mean, you're right. You nailed it. Everybody wants those speakers upgraded. Every manufacturer makes speakers for that application.
That's right.
This is a great solution to have in stock, grab off the wall, goes with the 6x9s. You know what I mean? And it just goes easy. Click, click, click. And
quad 6x9s, a pair of 6x9s.
Show the customer, the waterproof seal. You can remove. It's just no brainer.
We've got in the Saddletramp line, we've got bag lids, full replacement bag lids
while you're there,
right?
So you've got the wiring now to go into there, and you've got the lids in either 6x9, or I think you got a quad 6x9 as well. Is that 13 and down?
Those are 5 1/4.
5
1/4.
The point I was getting at with that, Jason, was you mentioned the amp plugs, right? Those amp plugs, would they work even with the what's the question I'm trying to ask?
With the amplified bike.
With the amp, right? Exactly, because the whole point of that is to be able to use the OE wiring, so you don't have to rewire the whole bike.
That's right.
So does that apply for even the amplified versions?
So these connectors are specifically for amplified motorcycles.
Right.
So basically, there's in a factory Harley-Davidson that's amplified. You have an amplifier up front, and you have an amplifier in each saddlebag, and then one in the tour pack. So this bypass, okay, this one is a rear amp bypass. So this is for the this rear amp bypass. This is a right amp bypass. So both of these are for rear saddlebag left or tour pack. And all this does is you unplug the connector from the factory amp and you plug this in, and then you hide that harness somewhere in the bike.
It loops it back together.
It loops the inputs and outputs.
That's the part that I didn't
brings
catch.
your audio
Okay.
right
Now it
back
makes
up
sense.
front.
Now
So
it makes
when you
sense.
go to install an aftermarket amplifier, quite honestly, this is the best place to install an aftermarket amplifier. And if we can, let's switch back to the front of the motorcycle here. This bracket here is our BC Amp 06, and this is an amp bracket specifically for Street Glide 2014 and up.
Most popular
And
spot for the amplifier right there.
It is most popular, and this is actually where the OE is located as well. So we've got little holes going all the way around here. Those are little zip tie holes so you can secure your wiring. We've got OE clip retentions here, so you can take a little tight here, but you basically take your Christmas tree and you put all your OE connectors right back into place.
Nice.
So, again, it's those accessories that are going to make an installer's job as easy as possible. And those accessories specifically for these motorcycles are in the Saddletramp line. And it's a line that's continuing to grow and evolve. So,
and let's not forget, Ramesh, this all adds to, the whole package, which adds to the profitability, which adds to the whole thing, right? I mean, it's
absolutely, it's repeatable results, right?
100%.
Predictable and repeatable. So,
100%.
Getting in there, when you were asking Jason about, how were guys doing this before, Jason was going under the premise that the knowledge base in 2014 and 2015 was equal between dealers, and I'm not trying to put Jason on the spot. But there were guys that were doing it kind of like the 2013 or 2012 because they hadn't seen a 15. It's like, yeah, we do bikes, we've done them before. And the knowledge of, hey, you have a massive cliff, not even, the frequency response curve in this case was like a frequency response cliff.
It's a non-existent.
It's
non-existent.
Right. We're going to amplify 100 times. Great. But it's 100 times zero. There's no information.
Exactly. There's nothing to
There's no information. Right. So if you didn't have that understanding at the time, which, even for us as a distributor, our knowledge base in 2014, 2015, and our knowledge base in 17 and our knowledge base in 22 are completely different. Yeah. But that
what do you mean there's no bass coming out of the speaker?
Right.
The phone, I can just imagine the phone calls.
Right. And if you put a big angry speaker that wasn't highly efficient but required a big engine behind it, and you're expecting this massive amount of output, doing it the traditional way,
disappointing.
It wasn't going to happen. We probably have less than more.
Oh, 100%. 100% you have
that's
less.
Actually the perfect example of why we feel the DXP product is pretty much it's going to be one of the most important pieces moving forward. And that's why we put a lot of focus here at Metra into improving that application list, because I think Ramesh nailed it on the head, right? We get into these new vehicles, we don't know what kind of response curve there is, right? And if we have to do all of our work on the output side of that factory amplifier, that presents problems and issues, right? The AXDSP is a product that basically replaces that factory amplifier. So, in this situation here, it's dual purpose, right? We got that on the car side. On the motorcycle side, we have that reflash feature. So it's all about interfacing and communication and overcoming those hurdles that we may find when these new motorcycles come to market.
Awesome.
It's interesting that it's actually a different board, which I hadn't picked up on in our earlier conversations over the years. So
it is
just for the dealers that are tuned in. Let's bring up that graphic one more time. If you're looking for more information on Saddletramp products, make sure you check out the website. It's metrapowersports.com. That's where you're going to find the information for anything that is Saddletramp related. Did we get that right, Jason?
You did.
Awesome.
And actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to bring up one more thing, right?
Absolutely, go for it.
Again, we're proud of our accomplishments here at Metra, right? So in that video that you did on the introduction side, we had our video crew stage all that stuff. They did a great job on it, but really the focus of that particular shoot was our new 95-HDIF2 interfering. So we were talking a little bit about 98 to 2013 models, and having upgraded options available for the consumer on those sides, for the dealer on those sides. This piece is 100% like, it screams Metra, right? It's all plastic, it's injected molded, it fits multiple speakers. I'm not sure if you guys have a graphic of it, but it's definitely something that we're extremely proud of, because there's nothing else like it on the market. Kind of like our DSP.
Would that be your second child that you love most?
It's really hard. They can hear me. I mean, they're in the room right now. I don't want to hurt one of their feelings.
I got you.
So
Jason,
for Importel dealers, just something to point out there, Ben and Jay.
Absolutely.
If on our website, on the Importel.com website, on the left-hand side, there's a section that says Browse by Brand, and we have Saddletramp laid out as its own brand. So what happens is when you go there, it'll actually filter by Saddletramp, but also by subcategory, because they're loaded into our system by subcategories. So it'll actually become almost like a virtual catalog. So if you want to see bag lids or fairings or DSP solutions or harnesses, it all kind of separates. So it's a really neat place to kind of get a good overview. I mean, obviously, in addition to the Saddletramp website, which has every single part, we have everything that is loaded in our system in there as well. So dealers can kind of get an idea of what solutions they can offer consumers when they walk in, or if they have a consumer in front of them and they need quick answers.
Sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, anybody who's watched this show, this particular episode, just got to learn on, because this is what you need to really succeed. So I congratulate the Metra team for that, and for Importel for bringing them on and setting this whole thing up. On that note, guys, I want to say thank you to Jason and whoever's switching your camera back there, your whole team back there at Metra.
Fantastic.
I appreciate the time and the demo. A lot of effort put in, but I think we really got out of it what we needed, and the understanding of what that DSP is all about. So on that note, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks, team.
We'll talk to you guys soon, and we
appreciate
it very much. Thank you.
We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
All right.
That was fantastic.
That was not just only fantastic. That was uber fantastic.
Yeah. No, like that was. I mean, even the videography was
on point.
Yeah,
on point. Everything he wanted to accomplish, to communicate, I think was totally accomplished, and visually very understandable.
I agree. I mean, that was the key right there, was that visual connection.
And how fast was that? Like live, real time. Like what was that? 2 minutes for
that was I think maybe quicker. Like
let's keep in mind, obviously the things
you already had it plugged in, but
plugged in. But the actual process,
it might take you longer to disassemble the fairing and put the fairing back on than it would be to do the entire install.
I agree.
Of an amplifier with the amp kit and the T harness and the DSP.
Totally agree.
Might be close.
Ramesh, my friend, thank you for joining me on this one. This was a fun one. Obviously, Importel's got a ton of Saddletramp in stock. If you guys are interested in some Metra or Saddletramp accessories for that matter, give the people at Importel.com a call. Ramesh and his team will be more than happy to serve you guys. Any last message for dealers tuning in?
If you're not in the category, watch this video, get into it. It's not as scary as you think. And you need to have, I mean, whether you're in or not in the category, you need the motorcycle DSP to do anything 14 and up, even if it is preamplified, because you need those settings and filters.
I'm sure you'll be pointing a lot of people to this video moving forward. So on that note, Ro, thank you so much for joining. Talk to you soon.
Awesome, Ben. Thank you. Thanks for putting this together.
Take care. There you have it. Awesome. And again, shout out to Team Metra for putting that presentation together. It takes a lot of effort to put these videos and presentations together, folks. So give them a shout out or a high five when you get a chance. Okay, big news. Starting tomorrow, we are shifting gears. That's right. We are shifting gears. You want to tune in to CMA Networks until Monday, May 9th, because we're shifting to the Jeep audio sessions into Jeep. Premier brands in the category, of course, as per usual. We're going to go one-on-one with each and every one of these brands and get to know what's going down for all them Jeep lovers out there this season. Okay. Of course, reminding you to get to our website, CMA Networks. If you like this video, there's many more where this came from. We have a brand new interface, brand new search engines. You can search by category, you can search by brand, and even with your favorite trainer, even Jason Anderson has his own profile, so check him out. Thanks for tuning in to this CMA Showcase presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop
you know
it.
what today where I'm going to
Yo, roll it down. I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?